Welcome to the Year of the Movie podcast, the podcast where we talk about movies from the year of the movie 2023. We are your hosts with our special guest. He's still here, Sean Paul Russell. And it looks and probably sounds different. There's a reverb, there's an echo. We're at the Sanctuary again, the comedy club that we work at, the Commonwealth Sanctuary. I'll get the name right. It's a big open room, so that's why there's
acoustics are great.
The reverb and the lighting. I just threw a real basic lighting together, so that's why the two of us, for our video viewers, are much more warm. And Sean is real blue and pale.
Oh.
Just like in real life.
Yeah.
A bit more ghostly. Why did we start this podcast?
Well, I've been thinking about it, and I'm pretty sure it's because 2023 was a goofy year for movies. You got your classics like 65 and 80 for Brady and Strays and etc. etc. You got the blockbuster ones like Barbie and Oppenheimer, and we're for sure talking about one of those blockbusters today.
Oh yeah, everyone's talking about it. Apple TV's original movie, Ghosted.
Yeah. And if you like hearing us talk about the big movies like this, consider supporting us on Patreon, rating and reviewing us wherever you get your podcasts, and or following on Instagram. All those things are helpful. Ghosted is the synopsis. Cole falls head over heels for enigmatic Sadie, but then makes the shocking discovery that she's a secret agent. Before they can decide on a second date, Cole and Sadie are swept away on an international adventure to save the world.
I'll say the synopsis is not quite there.
Not always accurate, but that's how Google be these days. What were your first impressions when you heard about this movie?
Well, we watched the trailer.
We did.
And the trailer gives away
everything,
truly what the movie is about.
Yeah.
And so I think my first impressions, I don't want to speak for you, but my first impressions were creepy.
Yeah, my first impressions were this could go either way. Because there are a couple of jokes in the trailer where it's like, is this a romantic gesture or is this creepy? And are we going to acknowledge that? And the movie does both, I would say. Yeah, I didn't do a trailer breakdown for this episode because we're gonna go through the whole plot, and the trailer gives away absolutely everything. Sure. Sean, when did you hear about this movie?
I think I probably had some prior knowledge, who knows, whenever it came out. But all that went away. So as far as my current memory is, I first learned about it when I saw the picture.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's Chris Evans, Captain America, to the you out there.
Everyone.
To me, he's Captain America. Yeah. And I bet there's probably at least one other person who agrees. And I was like,
probably one other person who only remembers him as the trumpet player in that one movie that he directed.
That's right. I did see listed on his IMDb, it was like actor, producer, director, and I was like, I don't know about that last one, but yeah.
Yeah.
Like Before We Go or something?
Yeah,
like
Before
that.
We Go, it had Alice Eve.
Oh.
Who we talked about 2 episodes ago.
Sure.
Because she was John Cena's wife.
Yeah.
And the other
really good movie.
Yeah.
Freelance.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't talk about her too much. Our impressions of her in that movie were she deserves better.
Yeah.
Is that how we feel about Chris Evans?
Yeah.
She deserves better. Yeah. Yeah, so the trailer, the general vibe is it starts as a comedy. You've got the classic song I Would Walk 500 Miles playing. It's pretty upbeat. It shows that Cole went on a date, and then he's being ghosted. He's texting her too much, and then he decides to do a romantic gesture of like, well, I know she's in London right now. I'll meet her in London. And then he gets there, and then you've got the cab driver who's like, that's not like creepy at all.
I'm sure she's going to love it, mate.
Yeah. And then he gets attacked and drugged, and he wakes up in a torture room, and then it changes to an action trailer with a bunch of fight scenes because his date, Sadie, is a secret agent and she rescues him, and there's a mistaken identity thing where people think that he's the secret agent but it's actually her. Truly all of this is revealed in the trailer, and then it gets farther away from the comedy genre the more you get into the 3-minute long trailer, which is long. And then it also, like, it has like some quippy stuff. It does like the basically the Marvel edit of like action sequences and then like joke landing with a punch. And then also the focus shifts from Sadie and like Cole being damseled to Cole fighting in the sequences, which like he doesn't really learn that much about being a spy, I would say, throughout the course of the movie. Anyway, the graphics that show up highlight that this is from the brains behind Deadpool and a producer of Top Gun Maverick, and it has the tagline, "Actions speak louder than words."
What brains from Deadpool?
The writers.
Okay.
Yeah, which I've got more on them later. I think their involvement is interesting. We'll get there. The movie.
Yeah.
The cast of this movie.
Wowza, the cast.
Everyone is in this movie.
Clearly, that's where the budget went.
Yeah, I think so.
So, like we said, we had Chris Evans as Cole Turner, Ana de Armas is Sadie Rhodes, Adrian Brody is Levesque, Mike Moe is Wagner, Tate Donovan is Cole Turner's dad, Amy Sedaris is Cole Turner's mom.
They are credited on IMDb as dad and mom. They don't get names.
Why would they need them? Lizzie Broadway is Maddie Turner, the sister. Mm-hmm. She gets a name.
Yeah.
Stephen Park, Utami, is it?
Yeah.
Tim Blake Nelson is
Boris Love. And then we get into the cameo section of the cast.
Anthony Mackie, grandson of Sam, John Cho, the Leopard, Sebastian Stan, God the Bounty Hunter, Ryan Reynolds, Jonas, Bern Gorman, English Cappy.
Bern made it into the trailer. Good for him.
Bern Gorman is in Torchwood.
Mm-hmm. He's one of those faces, for me at least, where it's like, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah.
He's got like a pretty severe look, but in this he's like, I mean, they gave him a Cockney accent, and he's there so briefly. If you're confused about some of those names, like grandson of Sam, we'll get there. So the plot of this movie. We start with Sadie driving through the mountains. She takes a phone call from her doctor. And then through context clues, we learn that Sadie's coworker just died, and they weren't super close, but it has made Sadie realize how empty her life is. Her coworker had a houseplant, and that's more than she has. She also needs to get groceries. Cole Turner runs his honey stand at the farmer's market, and he misplaces his things often enough that he has trackers on his personal items so he doesn't lose them. He talks to his fellow farmers who say they're sorry to hear about his recent breakup, but also he's too needy and he needs to chill out. The woman running the plant stand leaves to get high, and Cole watches her stand for her. Sadie arrives to buy a plant and I guess her groceries. She picks a higher maintenance plant and talks to Cole about how she leaves her work often. He tells her he doesn't want to sell a plant to someone he knows that will kill it. And then the plant stand woman comes back. Sadie leaves with her plant. Plant stand woman says Cole and Sadie obviously had chemistry and he should get her number. So he chases after her and asks her out. She says, let's get coffee right now. And they go on a date that ends up lasting the whole day, and they spend the night together. Cole gets home the next morning to his parents' farm. And he says Sadie might be the one, and his sister Maddie tells him not to blow it and get too clingy too fast. And she also notices that Cole took a selfie of him and Sadie in bed while she was asleep, and Maddie tells him that's creepy. Maddie's correct. There's a montage of Cole working at the farm and checking his phone. He sends Sadie too many texts during the day, and she doesn't respond to any of them. He eventually realizes he left his inhaler in Sadie's bag. and he checks the location with his tracker thing and sees she's in London. Cole's mom says he should go surprise her, and he decides that's a cool and normal thing to do. So he does that. Cole goes to London following the tracker. He gets ambushed by a group of men who drug him. He wakes up in a room with bugs, and a man named Borislav is there to torture him. Borislav keeps calling Cole the tax man and asking for a code. Cole has no idea what's going on. Suddenly, a masked figure breaks in and shoots everyone, rescuing Cole. The figure takes off the mask and reveals, oh my god, it's Sadie, and she works for the CIA. Didn't see that coming.
Got me just now when you read it, and we watched it yesterday. It just got me again.
You getting the goosebumps?
Oh, yeah.
That's because the twist is so shocking, and not because you forgot about the plot of this movie, because it doesn't stick with you.
Yeah, I was thinking when I was setting all of this stuff up, I don't remember the movie we watched yesterday.
Well, I'm so glad we're going through a plot breakdown right now. So, Sadie and Cole escape during a chase fight sequence. They're arguing the whole time. They agree they aren't right for each other. Sadie says she was going to call Cole when she got back, but he sent too many texts. They get to safety. They meet Sadie's ex-boyfriend Marco, who will get Cole back to America.
They're in Pakistan right now, by the way.
Yeah, they're in. Yeah, he was kidnapped in London, woke up in Pakistan. Cole learns that Sadie's mission is to get a bioweapon back from Levesque before he can sell it. Levesque has also put out a bounty on the taxman, who he thinks is Cole, and then a series of bounty hunters kill Marco and then each other, trying to bring Cole to Levesque. We should talk about that scene later. That's where all of those goofy names come in. Those are the code names for all the bounty hunters. Sadie forms a plan and knocks Cole out. She brings him to Levesque so she can get closer to the bioweapon. They end up on a plane. There's another fight. Sadie gets stabbed. Cole ends up rescuing her by jumping out of a plane with her and the bioweapon, and a parachute. The CIA sends agents to rescue Cole and Sadie on the island that they woke up on.
They were only able to do that because she had a CIA tracker button that she could press.
Yeah.
That's important because she told him to go without her.
Right.
So, like, he would have been stranded.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, her whole thing this whole time is like, mission over everything. I forget the exact phrase that they use, but she gets stabbed and she's like, leave me behind, because that's what you're supposed to do. The mission comes first, and he's like, not an agent. I'm gonna take you with me. We're gonna jump out of this plane together. Mm-hmm. It's a great second date. So the CIA sends agents. Oh yeah, they rescue them. Sadie gets suspended from the CIA for putting a civilian above her mission. The bad guys have the bioweapon. Cole figures out the code to open the bioweapon, the case that it's in. The code to open it was the genetic structure of the houseplant that was in Sadie's coworker's apartment. Remember that? That key detail? It all comes back together.
Also, her coworker wasn't really a coworker. It was someone that she killed.
It was a rival spy. Same organization. I don't know if she worked for the CIA or not.
No,
but
she worked for the bad guys.
Yeah. So that's
America good.
Yeah, America good always.
Ana de Armas, American.
Good. Yeah, the other spy like figured out the code, so she had that houseplant in her apartment, and then Sadie killed her before she could use it. Anyway,
And when they were on the island, that is the moment where they start to fall back in love.
Just so we know where we're standing with all of this.
Yeah.
The CIA wants Cole to meet with Levesque and his buyer Utami because they both think he's the tax man, and then they would have him pose as a rogue agent. Cole eventually agrees, and Sadie sits in her apartment alone. Cole's CIA backup gets killed by Levesque's men, so he's on his own. He decides to continue the mission and trusts that Sadie will show up to save him, and she does. There's another fight scene. Ryan Reynolds has a cameo. All the bad guys die, and Cole and Sadie get the bioweapon. Sadie meets Cole's family, who approve of her. His family think that she's an art dealer. Mm-hmm. The couple then go on a trip to Europe, where Cole can research the agricultural history book he's been writing, and Sadie can continue to kill people. They're happy together. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot and also very little.
I mean,
in
so
this
like,
movie.
It's the movie trope of person who knows what they're doing and person who doesn't know what they're doing get thrust into a buddy cop action spy movie.
I will say it's a little bit stronger on that premise than Freelance,
Yeah.
which is also that premise.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if where do we want to start?
Cole wrestled in high school.
Cole wrestled in high school. It's true.
That's why he didn't need any of that ninja CIA training.
Yeah,
He
that's
wrestled in high
true.
school.
I forgot about that.
In the first fight sequence that Cole actually like participates in, he takes someone and suplexes them.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah,
Right, 'cause he wrestled in high school. Yeah.
Because there was a throwaway line of his dad earlier being like, "Did you tell her that you wrestled in high school?"
Yeah. Okay, so his parents, very supportive.
Too supportive.
Too supportive. I think, boundaries are cool, actually.
Yeah.
And he tells them everything, which is nice. That's good that you have that dynamic with your family. But then, yeah, it's just a lot for your mom, Amy Sedaris, to be like, you should go to her in London.
He also has asthma,
Yeah,
but just enough
just at the beginning of the movie.
to show that he has a tracker on his inhaler.
Yeah.
And there's a scene when they're on like their first date
Mm-hmm.
where they're racing up the stairs, and it's Chris Evans, who at least one other person might know as Captain America,
Yeah.
and Ana de Armas racing upstairs. I'm sure she's in good shape too, but it's Chris Evans who runs so well that
He's so good at it.
like the stuntmen who were doing like his stunts couldn't run as well. And Chris Evans lost the race in this movie, and it's just it kind of happens throughout this movie where you're just watching it and you're like, why is Chris Evans like it's
Yeah.
such a weird casting because he was Captain America. so long.
The concept of like damseling the man, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if Chris Evans in this role is like, it's almost like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if we got
Yeah.
Captain America to be the goofy man? And it's like, yeah, but also it's Captain America. You
Yeah.
know, he can do these things. So it's not the most believable in this goofy movie. Yeah. Cole's family takes things from 0 to 100 so fast. His sister is both like the voice of reason and also a little too snarky, where because like Cole was interested in agriculture and history and like wanted to write this book, and then they keep saying that his dad got hurt, so then he moved back home to help take care of the farm, and his dad is better now, but he just like never left. And his sister like a couple of times tells him to man up and move out of his parents' house. It's like, well, you know exactly why he moved back. He moved he did it for a family and business reason, and like they're running the business together now, and she also lives there, so
Yeah, it's kind of unclear how old Chris Evans is supposed to be,
Yeah.
because it's like his sister seems to still be in high school, maybe.
Oh, I thought she was older than that.
I thought
Older,
but
okay.
I don't
I
know.
don't know. She just was. I thought younger because she was still living at home. And
Right.
It seemed to be fine.
She has little sister vibes.
Yeah.
I don't know how little. Yeah, everything that Cole does is actually creepy and not a romantic gesture, and the movie doesn't fully commit to saying
Yeah,
It's
it's
creepy.
like Ana de Armas keeps saying that it's creepy, but then they still
they end up together, so
end up
it's
together.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the flying to London after one date, taking a selfie while she's asleep.
Yeah.
And it's not like he just like saw pictures of her on the internet or something like, hey, I'm in London. It's like,
Yeah.
my inhaler is in your bag.
Yeah.
I have a tracker on the inhaler. I guess I can track you now.
Yeah. And then there are people like the cab driver who say like, yeah, I'm sure that's totally fine. It is like a thing of like, this is either creepy or romantic based on whether or not they end up together at the end.
Based on whether or not you're Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
she when they first meet, she's like obviously immediately enamored. She like pauses for a second. She's like, oh,
Yeah.
because it's Chris Evans. He's a good-looking dude.
Yeah.
But like, if this wasn't a Chris Evans looking type, this movie goes to horror film thriller real quick.
There's a thing that I've seen on the internet for a while called the Steve Buscemi test, which Steve Buscemi is a very nice man. He's not considered conventionally attractive. So it's like, if you cast Steve Buscemi doing the exact same things as this attractive person, is it still creepy or romantic? And it's like, whether or not it turns into an episode of Criminal Minds. Everyone keeps saying out loud how much chemistry that Sadie and Cole have, and I don't see it.
Yeah, I do unfortunately think that the biggest problem with the movie is Ana de Armas, like outside of the writing and the story.
Yeah.
But, like, to make the bad writing and the bad story work.
To sell it.
You do need actors who can sell it.
Yeah.
Ana de Armas is not the right choice. Originally, it was supposed to be Scarlett Johansson, but she was filming something else.
Yeah.
But we were watching and we were like 20 minutes into the movie, and I was just like, is she a bad actor? Because, like...
The other thing that doesn't help her is she's got a wig on that's, like, just bad enough that I was like, she's got a wig on. Like, I don't know. Just when she shows up, it's like, I don't believe any of this. I don't know if she's a bad actor, because I really haven't seen enough of the stuff that she's in to judge that.
Yeah, and I feel like she didn't talk enough in Knives Out.
Yeah.
To really...
Yeah, she's very flabbergasted during that movie, but I don't know how much, like, dialogue she actually had, from what I remember. But it's like the woman at the very beginning who is running the plant stand, they're like arguing back and forth, and then she comes up, and then she's like, she like said she was leaving to get high, and then she was like, Cole, she was obviously flirting with you. And he's like, was she? And she was like, are you high? Of course she was. It's like, no, people were fighting about a plant.
Yeah, it was like very aggressive fighting. Yeah.
And then they take a lie detector test. All the bounty hunters saying, like, you guys need to get a room. Like,
yeah, so the bounty hunter scene was a bounty hunter got them, and then the bounty hunter would say, you need to get a room. Who am I? I'm the leopard.
The grandson of Sam.
And then another bounty hunter would kill that bounty hunter, and then it would go, you guys need to get a room. I'm God, the bounty hunter.
And then he would die. Which is, I think, the best scene in the movie, but it was like...
It was the best scene in the movie, but, like, not because it fit in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, it was just...
It's kind of meta with all the cameos.
Yeah.
Right.
The first bounty hunter who shows up, it's Anthony Mackie.
Who
Right.
plays Falcon and now Captain America.
So for me and our other viewer who know Chris Evans as Captain America, we're like, oh, wow, we got the two Captain Americas in the same room, and one of them's going to shoot the other one.
Yeah.
And
then
John Cho.
John Cho. And it's like, oh, yeah,
John
John
Cho.
Cho's great. That's fun.
Yeah.
he's not Captain America.
But then...
But then...
God is played by Sebastian Stan.
Who is the Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
He's just like lurking in the back of a
Yeah.
car seat.
Yeah.
He's like, what is it?
God.
I'm God, the bounty hunter.
And he kills John Cho.
Yeah.
And then Anthony Mackie comes back and kills him, and then dies. So
He just bleeds out. He's
yeah, it's a John Cho marble sandwich.
But maybe they're trying to say that John Cho is actually suited to play the next Captain America.
That'd be fun.
I think he would be the oldest.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. He's older than you.
So they take a lie detector test when they are rescued from the CIA to say, like, whether or not they lost the bioweapon on purpose, I think was the point of that. But the woman who is administering the test is, like,
Instantly
so into their drama, and also touching Chris Evans so much to be like, do you feel okay? Like, she's just trying to touch
She
a
also
hot
says
man.
something. She does a lot of HR violations.
For sure, yeah.
But it's funny
Because she is HR.
Oh.
Yeah, so they keep doing the fighting back and forth thing, and then she's like watching them, and she's like, "You two need to get a room," and everyone just keeps saying that, and meh.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a weird thing to me was it felt like there were weird cuts or transitions and or lack of transitions in between stuff. So the one that we laughed at while it was happening was Cole and Sadie kiss for the first time on their first date, and then it cuts to the sunrise and they're kissing in the same spot. So we're like, did they just kiss for 12 hours?
Midnight to sunrise.
Yeah.
Just in the same spot. They were just kissing.
Yeah.
For 12 hours.
And then they go and like he walks her back to her house, and then they like keep seeing each other. And then Cole, he jumps out of the plane, and then so like you see him leave the plane, and then it's a shot of an island.
Yeah, a wide shot.
Yeah.
Establishing shot of an island.
And it says 6 hours later. And then it's Cole on the beach he made a tent out of a parachute. And Anna de Armas is waking up and she's like, what happened? And then it's just, it was weird to me to have a guy who has never left the country, is a good old farm boy who is thrust in a CIA situation, and you don't just get a shot of him like screaming as he jumps out of a plane.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was for budgeting reasons.
Probably.
And then,
but like that specific thing, just like showing the title say 6 hours later,
it's just lazy.
It's lazy. It makes no sense, especially because they even say, "How long have I been out?" And Chris Evans says
6 hours later.
For a while.
Yeah.
Clearly for a while.
Yeah.
It's just like it's like our audience is that dumb that they need to read something that says 6 hours. What studio exec was like, wait, how long has he been there?
Yeah.
Oh, 6 hours late. Oh.
The ending shot. So they're in Europe. He's reading 2 books about agriculture or whatever. She picks him up in a fancy looking car. He opens up the trunk to put his stuff in there, and then
they're still in DC at the end.
Oh, they're in DC at the end? I thought they were in Europe.
No, they talk about going to Europe.
Oh.
But then at the end, the ending scene, that is in DC.
Yeah, I think it's the Kennedy Center.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, then another weird transition.
Yeah.
So she opens up the trunk, and there's a guy who's kidnapped in the car, and Chris Evans just like, as long as work stays in the car, and then he puts his stuff in there, and then it's them walking to an event, but it's just them. You just see them walking down this very long hallway, like getting their tickets ready to go to the event, and then it just pulls out, and you don't see like what the actual thing was or anything.
It's just date night.
It's just and then the credits roll, and it's just such a weird shot.
But at first, before the credits roll, it shows the Kennedy Center for the last time, or is it?
Yeah, they kind of
get
away from the people to just sort of the crowd.
It just shows the Kennedy Center, but they filmed it, I assume, right when the Ukraine conflict war has started.
Oh, right.
Because the Kennedy Center still had blue and yellow lights for Ukraine.
That's why I assumed it was not DC.
No,
because while we were watching, he went, "Oh, Ukraine." So it's just like, great, they're traveling. Yeah, there were other scenes that were like funny in ways we weren't sure they were supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
Like the bounty hunter thing.
I want to talk about how Cole goes from farm boy to murderer.
Murder man.
He kicks a man off of a fast-moving bus and like off of a cliff, basically.
Yeah.
So that guy clearly dead.
Yeah.
And like he thinks about it for a little bit. He's like, "I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get over the man I murdered."
Yeah.
By the end of it, he throws a man into these giant moving gears and cuts him in half.
Yeah.
And he's cool. He's good.
Doesn't hesitate.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
You murder one man. You've murdered all the men.
Pretty much.
What's the difference?
Adrian Brody.
Yeah.
Is in the movie. He plays bad guy.
Levesque.
I guess he's French.
Yeah,
British, French,
vaguely European.
But at the end, he has a fantastic line referring to the Aztec, which is the bioweapon. But he sounds weirdly Southern, and he just goes, "Give me my weapon." And it's the best line, I think, in any movie. Give me my weapon.
Yep, that was a good one.
It's just like stuff that like not supposed to be funny,
Yeah.
but was funny.
Yeah.
Just
The timing of things and like, yeah, they're on Apple TV. Then it's only listed as an action movie, and it doesn't include comedy. So like all of the reviews were saying like action comedy, like romantic action comedy.
I mean, that could also just be like, I don't know if the UI has multiple genres. It might just say like the first thing.
I wasn't sure about that, but then like because it wasn't listed as that, then I was like, how much does it know that it's being goofy? But if it's writers of Deadpool, then
And the cameo scene alone, I think they do know, like they are trying, but it just was like, not there.
And the cameo with Ryan Reynolds, that's, I mean, you wouldn't do that unless you're aiming something comedic. I mean,
Ryan Reynolds is another one of Sadie's ex-boyfriends, and like so Marco got his hand cut off because Sadie left him behind when they were on a mission, and he's just like, it happens. And then Chris Evans is like, wow, that's terrible. And then Jonas is also at the fight sequence at the end for whatever reason, and you see him with an eye patch, and like he's just talking to her about like all the different body parts that he's lost, and he's like, do you want to get dinner sometime? Like
And then she shoots someone, but the gun is next to his ear, and he's like, oh, there's the other ear, didn't need that. All right, I'll see you later. And he crawls away.
Yep. The soundtrack to this movie had some choices that honestly I'm struggling to remember all of them. It does include the song The Taxman, but then there's also like a Bruno Mars song during
Uptown Funk.
Yeah, Uptown Funk during like the finale action sequence. There was another song. It was just like a bunch of popular choices that didn't really give the movie a cohesive vibe.
And it's not like they put it to the music. It really was, they laid it over.
Yeah.
And we're like,
Yeah. Anything else we want to talk about?
anything else in the movie?
there's a small line I like. It's not going to beat, give me that whip.
Give me my whip.
But at one point, Chris Evans and, I should use his
government name.
government name, Cole, and Sadie, they're like on a mountain or whatever and being chased.
Yeah.
And they like tumble down the mountain. And Chris Evans, he just sort of quietly says,
I
swallowed a rock.
But I did like that line.
That is in the trailer, yeah.
Because like he said it like he was surprised. He was like a kid that was like, I swallowed a rock, and like he kept running.
Yeah.
I like Chris Evans in this movie. Like I knew he was a good actor, but like this movie I think does show that he is a good actor because
He is trying, yeah.
because like in the first 15 minutes it's like, oh, no one in this movie, like it all sounds so stilted and like what, like just not good, like, but like whenever he is talking it's like, oh, this does sound natural.
Yeah.
But it's not like his lines are especially different. It's just, it's Chris Evans knows how to speak naturally.
Yeah. There's a part that's also in the trailer where right after Sadie rescues Cole and he's telling her like, he kept calling me the tax man, and she's like, they think you're the tax man, and then he realizes that that's her, and he goes, oh my god, like he's like a genuine oh my god, and she does oh my god, and it's his delivery is way more believable than hers, and I know it's different tones, and like I don't want to keep comparing her, but like
Is it that same scene where she's just like, you're just telling me this now? And then he's like, yeah, sorry, I'm new to being a spy. I didn't know I should tell you this. I don't know what any of this means.
It's later on when he's like, I'm sorry, I was drugged and kidnapped at the time.
Yeah.
And he's like, I was like, you're the one who's a spy. You should be asking me what the torturer was torturing me about.
Yeah. It was just like Chris Evans was the best part
Yes.
of this movie. And it's a shame that none of the other parts of the movie lived up to Chris Evans.
I think everyone else was doing it at like a 7,
Yeah.
and he was at a 10.
He was giving it his everything.
Everyone needed to be way more over the top and sell it more for it to be like decide more if it's a spoof or if it wants to be an action movie.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people I think were in the action movie category, and then Chris Evans was also there. There's something else that I wanted to mention, and now I cannot remember what it. Oh, during their first date, I do appreciate in this movie that you do actually learn a lot about Sadie as a character. You get a lot of info in her backstory. She you find out why she is a little bit of a sociopath, and like she doesn't let people in, and she says she's an immigrant. Basically, she came she was on a raft with her mom, and she was terrified, and 5 days of sharks and screaming and crying and no food and all. She calls it the most terrifying experience, and she says I basically decided from that I saw how strong my mom was, and I decided to no longer be afraid of anything else. This is all happening while Cole has just told her the scariest movie is The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And she's like, here's my immigration story. And he's like, maybe you should try this movie though. You'll have nightmares for a month. And so that scene was another one of those moments of I kind of think if a woman had directed this, then they would have played that more as this guy doesn't quite get it, of you can,
Yeah.
you don't, you gotta listen to what she's saying, of there's no great way to respond to that, of oh, I'm sorry that happened to you anyway.
Have you seen The Exorcist?
Have you seen The Exorcist? But she just told this very personal thing, and then he's like, but here are the stairs to The Exorcist.
I got a joke for you.
Waka waka.
Yeah. It's just another modern dating thing that you don't, it's more creepy than romantic.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I don't think they should have been together.
Yeah,
I
No.
don't know much, but
No, they
I
definitely
know that.
definitely should not have ended up together.
No.
Had they been hey, this was an experience, good luck, I think that would have made the movie better.
If they hadn't ended up together, then I think, it would have been Cole grows as a person, realizes you can't do romance tropes in real life, and also now he travels a little bit more, and then Sadie can learn to let people in, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of Mr. and Mrs. Smith is a much more believable version of toxic chemistry, where by the end you're yeah, whatever, they're together, but it works enough. And then this one is I think they should see therapists individually and never be in the same room together.
Yeah.
Having couples therapists,
Yeah.
they should get their own.
Yeah. Production facts. This movie was released on April 21st, 2023 on Apple TV Plus. It is an Apple TV Plus original. It's an hour and 56-minute runtime, and it's rated PG-13. It's got a 25% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 55% audience score, a 34 out of 100 on Metacritic. So, rave reviews. The Rotten Tomatoes critic consensus says listlessly waffling between action, comedy, and romance without ever solidifying into a satisfying whole. Ghosted earns a chorus of boos. And then the general tone of critic reviews that I saw just kept repeating that it doesn't commit to a genre. It puts in famous faces to distract from everything that's missing in the movie. It keeps pulling away from anything below the surface level. There was one line that said it's only interested in a casual relationship with the audience. And then a BBC One article says Ghosted and its fellow direct-to-streaming movies provide blandly undemanding escapism that the whole family can agree to sit through. However terribly reviewed they are, they have enough allure to get us asking, how bad can it be? And that's, honestly, kind of the vibe of a lot of movies that we've watched. And like I think there are pros to that of sometimes you want to just have something on in the background and you don't necessarily care about that, but it's just
You still want it to be fun?
you still want it to have something to it. And like this is that BBC One article was also talking about how like streaming has become like a glamorous version of direct to video movies. And like we're at that same quality level, but this one is shiny. And just talking about how like things are dumbing down things for an audience, and how do we feel about that, and what people are actually paying attention, or studios are actually paying attention to in terms of metrics versus quality of the movie itself. Which is a thing that you kind of mentioned earlier too, of like how much do we really need to dumb things down for audiences to put like 6 hours later specifically. So the budget of this movie, couldn't find a specific number. It is a straight to streaming, so it doesn't have anything at the box office, but according to the metrics that Apple cares about, it is kind of considered a success because it has a high completion rate. And that's the thing that they pay attention to the most. Is
Is that people watching it from beginning to end?
yeah. So there's like later on, I think I have info about like there's surveys of like if you have a smart TV, then there's certain surveys about like how long you watch something, but they start measuring data from like if you watch at least a minute of it, which is very funny to me that some people would just like get 58 seconds in and be like, no, I'm good. The production timeline of this movie: August of 2021, Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson enter negotiations to star in Ghosted with Dexter Fletcher attached to direct. It is based off of an original idea by writers Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese, which was preemptively bought by Skydance before they wrote it. Good for them. December of 2021, Johansson exits negotiations due to scheduling conflicts. Skydance's attached producer pushes for Ana de Armas. He did it. February to March of 2022, Adrian Brody and the rest of the main cast are added to the project, and February to May of 2022, principal photography takes place. The majority of the movie was shot in Georgia at various locations. There are some locations that are shot in DC, and then New Mexico was used for the Khyber Pass scenes, and the Pakistan scenes were shot in studio in Atlanta.
None of it was shot in London?
Not that I could find.
That's some good effects.
Yeah.
Like in that regard.
Yeah.
Because it did look like they were in London today.
So it's got some nominations. It was nominated for 3 Golden Raspberries.
Sure.
Worst actor for Chris Evans.
No.
Worst actress for Ana de Armas.
Maybe.
Worst screen couple for both of them.
Yeah.
We already know who they lost to.
Yeah, we do.
Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, swept. And then also I saw listed on IMDb, it said like 1 win and 3 nominations. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Ana de Armas won a special mention award for the category She Deserves a New Agent from the Alliance of Women Film Journalists. This apparently had, because like I was looking through a bunch of the other awards that they had, and it's all the like the typical ones like best actor, best actress. They had like most daring performance, which is an interesting category. Emma Stone won. And then most egregious age difference in a romantic couple. And then it got into like She Deserves a New Agent. Toni Collette also won for them for Mafia Mama, which we will have to watch.
That is one where I'm like, why did you do this?
I know.
Yeah.
And also the entire cast of the book club, The Next Chapter.
Sure.
Then that was the other big winners. Yeah. They had some other category. Oh, it was like Hall of Shame, and it was just all of the actors who like Danny Masterson and what's his face, Marvel guy, which is all the people who have made terrible decisions and got caught in Hollywood. So that's fun. Good for Alliance of Women Film Journalists. The other tagline for this movie is, you heard of girl meets guy, get ready for boy meets spy. How do you feel about that? You're shaking your head. Feeling good? Positive?
What's got you?
Why and how lazy does an audience need to be that the tagline has to dumb it down for you? Because it could just be boy meets spy. But then the studio exec was like, I don't get it.
I don't think that's a clear enough reference.
What does that mean? And then the person's like, oh no, because like you've heard of
Girl Meets Guy.
Girl Meets Guy, and then it was like, oh, well, tack that on. What do you mean, like tack on like the explanation of what I'm referencing? Yeah, I think that'll really help. That'll help sell it.
Good taglines are 2 sentences long.
So yeah, so I'm thinking like, you've heard of Girl Meets Guy. Oh, but you can't just say then boy meets spy. You gotta kind of like segue it. Maybe like throw in like a get ready. Get ready for. It's a really dumb tagline.
I kind of like actions speak louder than words more.
Yeah.
But it's also like not specific enough for this movie for it to be like, that's the tagline to Ghosted. I also don't like the title. But
Yeah.
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 It's not about the movie really.
No.
Like it's not. I do think though, like if it's the actions speak louder than words, then it could just be actions speak louder than words. Get it? Because it's an action movie, and he makes this weird gesture of flying to London. That's the tag.
All of
What do you?
Well, I'm just curious. I mean, if we don't like Ghosted, what's a better title? Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm trying. The
Creepy guy follows woman to London.
yeah.
That's good. It tells you what the movie's about. But what if we don't commit to him being creepy? We think he might be creepy.
Just
He might not.
Just call it Boy Meets Spy.
Yeah.
That's
And
a
then
thing.
The whole tagline.
Yeah. Yeah. The reason I don't like the title is, well, one, that's another trend with like straight to streaming movies is just like one word catchy titles like Freelance. And then the other
Skip trace.
yeah, the other reason is I think it's in the same that it adds to the wishy-washy, like whether or not Chris Evans is creepy or romantic is like, well, he got ghosted and like that's bad and a like buzzword for modern dating.
You don't ghost Chris Evans.
You don't ghost Chris Evans.
That's
He
fine.
will hunt you down.
With love.
He put a tracker on you. He brought you a plant. That's an inside joke. So Anna de Armas was an executive producer on this movie, and Chris Evans was a producer. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Chris Evans said, Ghosted to me felt like a movie that I grew up on, a movie that maybe we don't see very much anymore. He continued, I didn't think audiences had outgrown it prior, and I still don't think they have, despite the fact, I mean, technically I think we did okay in terms of viewership. Evans added that ultimately the movie's biggest naysayers were critics who, quote, didn't like it, but noted that that's more the fault of the movie as opposed to the appetite of the audience. I think the appetite's there if it's done properly. We could have been better. So I was curious why he agreed to do this movie.
Probably because Scarlett Johansson was going to be in it.
Right.
I think he just wanted to work with his friend.
Right. Which is, yeah. I'm also, glad but not surprised that he is aware of the final product of it and was like, yeah, we could have done better. So despite reviews, it is Apple's most watched film debut. So yeah, Samba TV research panel, that's the smart TV thing. So of 3.1 million homes with a smart TV who watched for at least 1 minute, there were 328,500 viewers in the first 2 days. So that's their biggest debut. I get the vibe that studio hands were all over this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like the 6 hours, the tagline.
Yeah.
Like, it's, seriously, like it's just
Yeah.
like,
So Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese, the ones who came up with the idea for this movie, their past big credits include the Deadpool trilogy, Zombieland, and Clifford's Big Red Movie. So they're heavy hitters. All of them. And then director Dexter Fletcher has directed Rocket Man, Eddie the Eagle, Bohemian Rhapsody. He was the final director on Bohemian Rhapsody. And he originally wanted to open the movie with a 3-minute sequence of Ana de Armas driving through the mountains, but then Apple said that if something doesn't happen within the first 30 seconds, people would turn it off. So in that same BBC One article that I mentioned earlier, Fletcher seems at least comfortable or aware of the difference between like making something for a theatrical release and making something for streaming. He talked about changing the focus from making artistic statements to audience retention, and I guess it's a thing that he's cool with, which like do what you got to do for your movie career. There are a total of 4 writers that are credited on this movie. The other 2 are Chris McKenna and Eric Summers, who are it's 2 teams, like they basically always work together. Their credits include American Dad, Community, the Lego Batman movie, various Marvel films like the Spider-Man No Way Home, etc. 4 seems too many for this movie specifically, but also they all have such solid credits that this could have been a really cool movie, and I am very curious about where exactly it went wrong.
I think the studio.
Probably.
It just really does feel like a studio movie of just like they are just selling something.
Yeah.
And it's like, this will sell. I don't care if it's good.
Yeah, because like Dexter Fletcher also has really good credits, so it's like I don't know if it's the direction where things fell apart. Probably just producing, and that happens sometimes. So this originally was going to start out as a Marvel reunion with Johansson and Evans. It became a Knives Out reunion with DeArmas and Evans, and then also a Gray Man reunion with DeArmas and Ryan Reynolds, and a Free Guy reunion with Evans and Reynolds. All of those degrees of Kevin Bacon.
I think Chris Evans is also in The Gray Man.
I thought he was.
He's the bad guy in The Gray Man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are those various degrees.
And he's also in Free Guy.
Yes. I listed that one.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
In my brain, it says DeArmas and Reynolds and Free Guy.
I don't know. I don't think
She's not.
No. Anyway.
But did you know that Chris Evans is actually in Free Guy?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
He's like, it's a real blink and a miss it type of thing.
The cinematographer for this movie was Salvatore Totino, which I clicked on him because that's a great name. And then I saw that his other credit from 2023 is 65.
Hell yeah. Salvatore.
Mr. Totino himself.
Do you
Yeah.
think we can get Salvatore Totino onto the podcast?
Mr. Totino, heir of the Tortino's fortune. We can interview him and eat some pizza pockets.
But not tell him. We're just eating them.
I'm sure he's never gotten that ever before.
So our rating,
It's that time.
we rate out of 4 with 5 options. 0 out of 4 is, oh no, this man followed me to London by tracking me. Oh my god. 1 is, it was a movie. 2 is well made. 3 is enjoyable and kind of technically good. 4 is Oscar worthy. Gave it a 1 out of 4 because there were funny parts. Chris Evans saved the movie. Adrian Brody is in the movie. You kind of forget that. So it feels like that was a movie.
Yeah. I also gave it a 1. I talked to my mom after I saw this movie, and I was like, yeah, I wouldn't recommend this movie, but the bounty hunter scene I would recommend. So if you can find just that on YouTube, you should watch that.
Sean, you...
Do you have a rating?
Oh, I guess I'm with Chris Evans when he said that, like, I'm game to watching more of these movies. My appetite is not satiated.
Yeah.
I got an open stomach, but yeah, I think I'm also gonna give it a 1 out of.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for your movie.
Thank you for your movie, Chris Evans. You tried your best.
You did.
Yeah.
Now we talk about another movie that we've watched recently. I want to briefly mention, I can't remember if we talked about it in the last one. Did we talk Cowboys and
No,
Aliens in the last one?
We did not.
Okay.
We didn't.
Something else.
Yeah.
Well, we watched Cowboys and Aliens. Harrison Ford, Daniel Craig. Honestly, kind of a fun movie.
I remembered hearing about it when it came out didn't see it and then had heard like it was bad, and then we watched it. It was like, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that it's Harrison Ford being a grumpy old man.
He's so talk about other really great line deliveries where he's like, give me my butt boy.
Give me my boy, John.
His boy is also Paul Dano.
Who plays the most inferior little boy.
He
He's
has
a man, but
he has such a rough time
Yeah.
in westerns.
and there's like Paul Dano is like, Paul, get me out of here, Paul. And then Harrison Ford just goes, shut up. And he's on a horse and he's
Yeah.
like, shut up.
That whole scene plays because we watched it on Peacock, I think.
Or
So-
Peacock?
I think it was Peacock.
Yeah,
okay.
so it's like does the autoplay
Yeah.
scene thing, and then it was just that whole sequence,
I want my boy, John.
and we were like, well, we have to watch this now.
And it was honestly
pretty good.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also wanted to talk about more of it because right after Ghosted,
Mm-hmm.
we watched another action comedy spy movie, Argyle.
Which was supposed to come out in 2023. Originally, it came out in 2024 instead.
Yeah.
So
We're not talking about it
we
for a full
can't
episode.
devote a full episode to it legally, but
Um,
would love to.
Argyle is Matthew Vaughn picture, Marv Productions. He did the Kingsman movies. I love the Kingsman movies, like Kingsman 1 and 2. The
Yeah.
Kingsman is not good in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Argyle came out. I kept hearing reviews saying that it wasn't good. People that like I usually agree with on movies, they were
Yeah.
like it kind of sucked. We watched it last night. It felt like a Matthew Vaughn movie.
It felt like a very good palate cleanser to
Yeah.
Ghosted. Whereas, like, all the issues that I had in Ghosted, then Argyle was fine with.
Yeah.
Because it's also action comedy. The romance makes more sense in it.
Mm-hmm.
I was also wondering while we were watching Ghosted, just because, like, the fight sequences are, like, I'm sure technically impressive, a little bit boring to watch. But I was like,
Matthew Vaughn always has great fights.
yeah. I was wondering in Ghosted, like, when you write an action movie script, do you just write fight sequence goes here and like what beats you have to hit? And then that's about it.
I
And
think
then
it depends on how specific your fight scene
yeah,
is.
because then Argyle, then there's like so much more obvious choreography that goes along with it, and it's a lot more like narratively important that I was like, well, this is, I could see in my brain at least, like, this is a much clearer thought process to me of like the intention behind, and now they're punching each other versus just let's put Captain America in a fight scene.
Yeah. Argyle has Sam Rockwell, who I love.
Mm-hmm. Bryce Dallas Howard.
Bryce Dallas Howard, John Cena, Henry Cavill, Samuel L. Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
Bryan Cranston,
Right.
Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah. I think that's those are the
Ariana
big ones.
DeBose.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's her face? Dua Lipa.
Dua Lipa. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Briefly.
British guy.
And the British guy.
The British guy.
Who?
Oh, he's everywhere. He was at the beginning. He was like the CIA directorate person or whatever.
Oh,
and
yes. Richard E. Grant.
Yeah,
Richard E. Grant.
I'm a big fan of Richard E.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Grant.
small cameo at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for him for getting a half day pay.
Yeah. But it was fun.
Yeah.
I think to me, like Ghosted is it didn't lean into the genres enough.
Yeah.
This one leads heavy. And I like it's not one where it's like, is this supposed to be a comedy? Because it's very clearly supposed to be a comedy
Yeah.
to me. And like I don't know if people watched it and they were like, is this supposed to be a comedy? I don't
I think
understand.
it was pretty clear.
I think something that like I did say like when we were watching, I was just like, this is clearly a fantasy movie.
Yes.
And like I feel like all of it, like in the Kingsman movies, the Kingsman, those are fantasy movies.
Yeah.
Like none of that stuff is possible. He just disguises a fantasy movie as a modern day spy movie
Right.
and comedy.
Yeah.
And like there is a scene in Argyle where a character skates on oil using knives strapped to boots and like skates around, does
Yeah.
full flips and turns and everything, and it's just like oh, this is a magical scene. Like magic is using like that's what's being used right now. It's just like
you don't want to think about physics too hard in
Yeah.
these movies, but also like same thing could be said for James Bond movies. If like it's it's the wish fulfillment thing, and he injects enough comedy into it that like it all I'm on board for all of it more than I am for Ghosted or Freelance or even honestly Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny of like it's hard to call that movie grounded.
yeah.
Or like I don't know, it just like Argyle just commits to the bit in a different way of like acknowledging like it's over the topness and like like the in the Kingsman, the first one, the Colin Firth shooting people in a church is like one of my favorite scenes that I've seen in like the past couple of years, and that it's so goofy and it's so over the top that you just kind of have to be on board with everything, and I think Argyle works in that way.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Supposedly, there's 2 more Argyle movies. Also, supposedly, his universe is all one universe, so the Kingsman universe exists in Argyle.
Yeah.
And he has another spy franchise that he's also going to start, and then they're all going to connect, I guess.
I'm cool with it.
Yeah, like, I'm not against franchises, obviously. Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, Lord of the Rings. Love all the franchises. We should get more franchises.
I like when people are making new ones.
Yeah.
Like even if I don't always love the quality of M. Night Shyamalan, I like that he combined all of them into Glass.
Fast and Furious is also a franchise.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. The soundtrack of this movie, of Argyle, it fit the vibe. Like it was a much more cohesive vibe, and also it fit the choreography of everything.
They also use the Beatles song, the new one,
Now and Then. Yeah. Which then, because there's a couple of things that they mentioned specifically about like character timelines. So then you were saying like it has to take place in 2030.
Yeah, well, something like that.
Well,
They're like, it was our song, and she's been out of the loop for like 5 years or something. So it's like for this to be their song 5 years ago.
Right.
The song came out in 2023.
Yeah.
It's like it's at least 2028, maybe a little
right
later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, watch Argyle.
Give it a chance.
You don't need to watch Ghosted.
No.
But I think with that, remember to follow us.
In real life. To London.
Yeah, to London. Track us using our inhalers. But follow us on Instagram, support us on Patreon, leave comments, questions, wherever, mainly YouTube. And we will respond to them on our other podcast, the Virtual House Sessions.
It's a monthly podcast.
Yep. But for now, we will see you next week.
Goodbye.
Go on, get.